Let's face it, climate change is real, and with ocean temperatures rising annually, we now face a new problem: coral bleaching. That's exactly what you're going to be diving into in today's data analysis project, allowing you to answer 4 key questions in this field, taking all the skills you already know, from data cleaning and standardizing to filtering and grouping, all the way to plotting your findings with Matplotlib. Welcome back, guys, to the channel. Welcome back, guys, for another episode of Code with Josh. For obvious reasons, I'm Josh, and I'm stoked to have you guys here. Before I dive into the episode, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe. That really does help my channel out within the YouTube algorithm. So if you enjoy this kind of content or you get value from my content, like and subscribe. Now today is our first together data analysis project, and I wanted to choose something that I'm truly passionate about. And I come from a long diving background. I'm very passionate about the ocean, so I wanted to choose a topic surrounding that, which is coral bleaching. And in today's project, that's exactly what we're diving into. Now, the first link in the description is going to take you to my newsletter where you can access this data set absolutely free, okay? And I'm going to include some challenges in there for you guys, okay? The first link down below. This project builds on everything we've been covering in this data analysis series. I've covered cleaning and standardizing your data. I've covered filtering and grouping. I've covered aggregation, and I've covered plotting and creating subplots with Matplotlib. We're going to put all that together in a single project to analyze our findings on coral bleaching. Well, guys, without further ado, let's get right into the video. All right, here we are, guys, in our data and analysis project that I have based on coral reef analysis, right? So I've mentioned I'm really passionate about the ocean. I'm passionate about scuba diving. I wanted to choose something that I could do this project on for you guys to hopefully make it a bit more lively. Now, the questions I've put here at the top, you're welcome to pause the video. These are the questions that we are going to answer in today's study. And we are going to use everything that we've been learning here on the channel. Okay, so periodically I will link the videos that we've covered with that stage of the process. So in my data analytics playlist, we've gone through cleaning data, an intro to Pandas, data filtering, data grouping, aggregation, and then Matplotlib for data visualization. So we're going to get a chance to use everything here today in this project. Okay. When I go through this, I'm going to do this as just code, and then at the end, I'm going to refactor our code into functions because it makes it more modular, more reusable. And the goal of writing good code is to create reusable code that you can use again and again. And so let's go through this together. At the end, once we have a working project, I'm going to refactor it. All right. Now, first things first, let's import Pandas. Not all that. And then we're going to import Matplotlib. Remember from last week's episode, we only want pyplot. And typically this is done through PLT, plot. Okay. Very nice. So bringing this in, I'm going to load in our data. So read CSV. And over here on the left, okay, I have linked this as the first link in the description. You can head on down there. I've included a challenge for you guys as well as this data set, okay? And you'll get that in the welcome email of my newsletter, okay? So head on down there, get that, okay? If you have any issues, let me know. This CSV file is massive. And it's slightly disorganized. Let me move me down a bit. Okay, so at the top here, you see all the information that we have in our columns in our CSV file. And we need to go through and really clean this up to the best of our ability and get this analysis going. Now, I'm not going to use all of this, but we are going to use a lot of it. And I will come back to this as we go through the project. So I've loaded our data. And typically, we're just going to run data info to give us a basic overview of the data that we're working with here. Okay. And since I'm up top here, I'm going to just do my initial inspection. If you think back to the previous episodes, what comes in the step, right? I want to see the shape of our data frame. So how many rows, how many columns. I would like to see if there's any missing values and any duplicate values that we need to address further. Okay, so I'm going to print down here. I'm just going to do like data frame shape. I'm going to do here let's say num of missing values. And then I will do here the number of duplicates, so num of duplicate values. Okay, do you guys remember how do we get these? So our data frame shape, I'm going to take my data and we're going to call the shape property. Okay, and this is going to return the number of columns and rows in our data frame. To calculate the number of missing values, we're going to say data is nil, but this is a Boolean function. So I want it to tell me really how many. I'm going to call sum on that. And then for this, we can just say data, and I don't want that box there. Let's change that to is nil. We are just going to use the duplicated method, like so. Once again, Boolean, so sum. All right, that's just our initial inspection. I'm going to run this. There we go. Okay, so let me make my terminal a bit bigger for us. So you can see here the data shape. Wow, there are over 18,000 rows. There are 24 columns. I'm going to merge a few of those together for us. And you can see here that there are a lot of missing values within certain columns. Okay, so I'm going to address these columns. And let's handle those. So the first part of our basic cleaning process is you need to determine what are the critical columns we need for our analysis. So go back up to questions, right? Read through the questions and kind of compare them to your data set. I'm going to create a list. So critical calls. And inside here, I already have these. I'm going to drop them and I'll explain them. These are all the columns within our CSV file that I've determined I need for this, okay? So there could be more. Maybe I've put one here that's not actually needed. But what I do know is to check for the coral bleaching. It's going to be a combination of these 4 columns. So I'm going to add these together, and the reefs that have the highest value, that represents the highest amount of coral bleaching, okay? I want country. Depth is important, okay? So most coral reefs are actually shallower, and we want to see and make sure that that's true, especially linking that with any coral bleaching, okay? So long story short, these are my critical columns. So I'm going to take my whole data frame, and I'm going to call drop na. Now inside here, I'm going to give it a subset, and I'm going to give it the list. So basically, any column that's missing something from this will be dropped because I have deemed it important. I can take that newly updated data frame and I'm just going to call drop duplicates, not drop dot drop. This should be data. And this is a very quick way to handle any duplicate values. Okay, so now data is cleaned-ish. Okay, I've dropped some columns, I've removed duplicates, but a lot more comes with this now. Okay, so I'm gonna keep with this bar for readability. Okay, so I'm gonna drop in this. So the next part of your cleaning process is gonna be to standardize your data. Okay, so standardizing your data could mean merging things together. It could mean converting the data types into a number. So very quickly, if I run our info again, okay, let's go up here. Okay, so here is our info to see what we're working with. And you can see all the data types, right? So an object is just a string. It's just text in Pandas. A number is either going to be float64 or int64, which we have here. And then the last one we have is a Boolean. Okay, so a lot of these I won't use, all right, but I do want to standardize this. For example, we have all these longitudes. So Typically, if you know how longitude and latitude is written, it's written as 1. But if we go into our CSV file, you're going to see it's actually written out in 3 different columns, 4 different columns. So I kind of want to merge these together into one. Okay, that's a bit redundant to have it broken up like that. And we're going to convert a few others to numeric form. All right, so I'm going to label this standardizing our data. Okay, I'm going to scroll down here. So to standardize our data, okay, I'm going to take our data and I'm going to go with longitude because that was first up. And I'm going to say, okay, basically I want to merge all of these together. So longitude degrees, I'm going to say it's a type of a string. So it's currently a string. We are going to add them together. So I'm going to put a space there and we are going to add the other ones. So data, longitude, I want minutes this time. Okay, so just give me a minute. I'm going to go through these. Degrees, minutes, seconds, cardinal direction. Yeah, cool. Very cool. Okay. Awesome. I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm actually just going to copy that. It'll just be easier for me. And I'm going to go in there and hold, I'm on a Mac. I'm holding Command right now. And I'm going to replace all of these with latitude. So I've done that now for longitude and our latitude. I've pretty much merged those together. Okay. That's one way to standardize it. Next, let's target our depth. Okay, so everything is done in metric here, but I'm going to say PD. We are going to use the method we talked about, which is called toNumeric. I've covered this in the previous episode. I'm going to link the data cleaning one. Okay, it's already been linked if it hasn't already. And what do we want to convert? I want to convert depth. Okay, and we will drop errors, coerce in there. Ooh, it already popped up actually. Let's use that. Coerce, this one. There we go. Okay. Now the data has been converted, but there could be an issue. Okay, so for example, if it is missing any data, I would like to fill in the average depth. The depth of a coral reef is not going to change. Okay, most reefs are found relatively shallow, so I'm just going to get the mean of that. And because I want to alternate, I want to change the existing data set, I'm going to say in place is true. Okay, so anywhere that's missing our depth, this is key, okay, in my analysis today, I'm going to replace the missing value instead of removing it with the average of the entire column. Hey, real quick, guys, if you guys are getting value from today's episode, please help out the channel, hit that like button, and subscribe. That really does mean the world to me, and I'm really happy to have you guys here. All right, back to the video. Cool. Our last one here for our analysis is going to be the year. So this data set goes back further, but I'm just going to analyze a 10-year span of the year 2007 to 2017. Okay, so let's convert the year, make sure it's in toNumeric. What do we want to do? Data, year. Okay, and we are going to say errors, and we're going to do coerce. Okay, just like so. Now, after I've gotten there, I can't get the average year. I mean, no, we're not going to even try that. Okay, so basically at this stage, if data year is missing anything, we are just going to drop that. Okay, I don't want to have that anymore. Year is going to be important for this analysis. And you're going to notice a bunch of years don't actually even have data for it in general. So yeah, we'll get to that. Okay, so I spelled standardizing wrong. I'm going to leave it. Okay, so we have now standardized our longitude, latitude, depth, and year, okay, converting it to what we need it to be. And I now want to get the bleaching percentage. So if you remember, bleaching is actually calculated in this data set by these last 4 numbers added together. So for example, according to this, this had no bleaching, okay? If I go down, okay, so here's a 10, Here's 20. Okay, so the more of these, the higher the number is, the higher the bleaching is in this analysis. So I'm just going to create a function that we can apply this onto the column. I covered apply, right, in my previous episodes, so I'm just going to call this extract bleaching. Okay, and this is going to be applied on each row, and I'm just going to return our data S1, okay, plus, and I'm really just going to add these, and it's not data because I gave it a row, so it's going to be row. I'm going to copy and paste this a few times. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I just want to add all these together. They're in numeric form now, so we've handled that. And the higher the number, okay, this is going to be our bleaching number. All right. So, I mean, if you guys have ever been diving or snorkeling and you see white reefs, that's bleaching. It's been happening a lot, especially in the last decade. Okay, it's quite sad, so it depends on where you're at, but if you've ever been diving anything, you've definitely seen it around the world. Okay, so now I want to apply this on each row of, let's go up and check. Well, I actually don't even have a row, so I'm going to create a row. Let's do some data featuring here. So I'm going to create a new row. And I'm going to call this bleaching percentage. Seems good to me. And we're going to take our data set and we're going to apply this. Apply is a method which allows us to apply a custom function onto each row of a data set. Okay, what do I want to apply? I want to apply my method that we made, and we'll say axis is 1. Okay, so now that we have created a new column and I've applied this to each one, I'm going to take it a step further, and we are going to fill in any missing values. So I'm just going to use the average of that. Okay, so we're going to say mean. Okay, because this is affecting all of it, we'll say in place is true. All right. Sadly enough, if a reef is dead, that's 100% of the reef that's gone. I don't want to see any number over 100, whether something gets merged or not. I don't want to see that. So I'm going to say here data bleaching. I'm going to take the data bleaching column. I want that to be smart. There we go. And we are going to apply another function. I'm going to apply a lambda function here. And let's just say min x, and the most it can be is 100. Okay, so this is basically like cap at 100%. Awesome. So our data is cleaned there. All right. So my data is at a good stage. I'm now going to go into filtering and grouping. Now, if you missed the filtering and grouping episode, those were 2 episodes. Okay, I'll start with filtering. I'm going to link that here now. Okay, guys, if you're getting value from this, you're learning on this channel, do me a favor, hit that like button. Okay, that really does help me out immensely. And subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Let me know what you guys want to see. All right, so like, subscribe, that helps me out quite a lot. Okay, let's say a data reef depth. Okay, so I really want to focus on any reef that's too shallow, that's less than 5 meters. It's going to have a tough time staying alive. So I'm going to target ones that are over 5 meters. So I'm going to apply a filter. I'm going to take my data, and inside here, I'm going to put a condition. So I want to get anywhere that this is true, anywhere that depth is over 5. Okay, that's my condition. Anywhere where this is met, this is going to be the value. Okay, so data reef depth represents all the reefs that have a depth over 5 meters. Okay, let's say data high bleaching. Okay, so anywhere that has a really high bleaching. So I'm going to tap in here, and I'm going to say like high bleaching. I'm going to say bleaching. Let's say anywhere it's over 50. That's going to be quite high on the index. And then finally, let's say data years, and I'm going to say, let's create a condition here. Data where the year is over, let's start with 2000, but I'm going to even filter it more later. Okay, so here are my 3 filters that I've just created. that creates new data for us to work with based on the conditions that we gave to our data. Okay, now let's do grouping. Remember, if you missed grouping, I'm going to link that here as well. Okay, I'm going to group by country. Okay, so let's take our data. I'm going to say group by, right? Now, what do we want to create groups around? Okay, well, I already said I want it to be the country, okay? And I want to get the bleaching data, so just like I have above there, or bleaching percentage, excuse me. Okay, so the countries could be like Thailand, because I've been there a lot. I'm going to use that as my example. It's going to group Thailand, and it's going to get all the really high bleaching percentage data, and it's going to store that in a cell as well. Now let's aggregate that. You can use either of these, and I covered this in the episode. Ag is just short for aggregate. I'm going to use aggregate for all you new learners out there, all right, just so we can see what's happening. And aggregate just allows me to apply multiple functions. But really, I want to apply the mean function, and let's say standard for standard deviation. I'm going to sort these. So it's going to be too much bleaching to go on, so I'm really going to sort by the mean. Okay, so I'm going to sort by the average. I'm going to give it an ascending. I'm going to say that's false. And then, because it's going least, highest bleaching to least, I'm only going to get the top 15 for this. Okay, very cool. Cool. Okay, so that's my grouping done. Going down here, let's create a pivot table. So a pivot table is just going to allow us to get a quick overview before we start plotting anything. Okay, so I'm going to say pivot. I'm going to create a pivot table from my data, and pivot table is a Pandas method. Let's see here. So my pivot table is, I'm going to give it some values. I want it to have the values of our bleaching percentage. Copy that. Paste that. Okay. My index is going to be based on the country. My columns is going to be based on the year. And then any type of aggregation function you want to apply or have applied, I'm going to say add func, aggregate function, and we are going to say mean. Functions lowercase. Okay. As a quick test, let's just print off pivot. That's my pivot table. See what I'm working with. I'm going to apply a few more additional steps. Okay, let's just see what we're working with here. Oh, did I do something wrong? Obviously. Okay. Invalid error specified coming from line 39. Market. What is wrong? Oh, spelled chorus wrong. Okay. Run it again. Boom. So this is our pivot table. Okay. And you can see it's just the top, the head, and the tail. Okay. A lot of these are missing values, right? It's hard to track bleaching over all the years in a lot of places unless people are proactive with it. But this kind of lets me see what I'm working with. If I go down to our pivot table I just made here, these are the values. So everything you see inside there is the bleaching percentage. Okay, we have our index on the left, which is country, and our columns is years. And this is the average, right? Because we're applying mean to all of that. All right, so we're looking pretty good. Okay, let me clean up the pivot table a bit more here. I mentioned that I only want to do the 10-year span. So I'm going to say pivot is equal to the original pivot table, but we are going to index that, and we're going to say 2007 to 2017. Okay, because that's where I know my data is going. I'm also going to create here like top countries. I want to know the worst countries for coral bleaching. Okay, so I'm going to say top countries. Let's take our pivot table. Let's get the mean of that. Okay, inside there we'll say axes is 1. I forgot an equal sign here. Okay, that handles that. Let us sort the values, and again we're going to do ascending is equal to false, so it's going to go greatest to least. we will get the first 15 and the index. So I'm at a good point here, okay? Now that I have the top countries, let's just redo our pivot table real quick. I'm going to say pivot is now equal to pivot location, and inside there we are going to say top countries. Now when I run this again, let's see how that changes. Voila, here we go. Right, so here's only the 15, okay? This is going to be displayed a bit differently, but this gives us a little bit of a better overview that we can see, you know, there's certain countries on here that, oh, look at this, 80, that's really sad. Where is that? Turks and Caicos. Florida's gotten really high. Okay. Okay, brilliant. This brings us now into plotting with Matplotlib. So this was our last episode. I'm going to link it. Okay, head on over, check it out. I introduced Matplotlib and subplots. Okay, so I'm going to drop here. I'm just going to say data visualization. So I'm going to create a figure and an axis. This is going to be matplotlib.subplots. Nope, subplots. Okay, it is going to be a 2x2 grid, and the figure size, I want this to be quite wide, so I'll say like 18 by, not 20, 12. Okay, good numbers. Okay, so let me go up to our questions. What did I do here? Oh, needs to be a tuple. Okay. Up to our questions. So, which countries have the highest average bleaching percentages? That's my first question I want to go down and answer. All right, so I'm just going to kind of drop that in here. What I can do here is I'm going to create, and I'm going to say group by country. We are going to get the mean of that, and we are going to plot that. Okay, so this can be kind of a bar. All right. We are just going to say AX here. There we go. AXS, square brackets. This starts at the subplot 0, 0. And then, of course, any color we want to give it. So I'm going to say color, let's just say purple. Okay. So now I have this. I'm going to go 0, 0. I'm going to copy this because I'm going to use this quite a lot here. Okay, so let's set the title. That's 1. Oops. Let's set Y label, and let's set the X label. And then because this is going to be a bar, I'm actually going to do legend. So I want to see, for example, Thailand. I want to see how the bleaching has changed over the years. So I want to show the key to that chart, the legend to that chart. So I'm going to say average bleaching by country. Our Y label is going to be average bleaching. And then the X will be country. Cool. So that answers the first one. So I have my plots. Let's do this differently. Let's not do this. Let me do an error chart so we can see the standard deviation. Okay, so I'm going to say error bar inside here. And let's take our group by country. Let's get the index. And then let's do, as our other one, group by country and the mean. Okay, so standard deviation, this will help us check out, you know, like the difference of our data. We are going to do Y error is what this stands for. And we are going to group by, let's do standard deviation. Is there a format? No, I'm not really going to give it a format. What else should I put here? Color. I can just do C, honestly. Black. This represents the bars. Cap size is 5. And what is the label for this? The label will be, this represents standard deviation. Okay, very cool. Okay, moving on to our next question, okay? So this is going to be the number of reefs by depth, okay? So let's just count the depth first. So depth count, This is going to be, what did I call it? Data reef depth. We already have that. Okay, I would like to get the depth, and we are going to say as the type. This needs to be an integer. Okay, let's count the number that we even have available. Okay, so this is going to change how many fall into which category, and we would like to sort these as well. Okay, cool. So now moving on to the next chart, 0, 1. I'm going to take this. Okay, I would like to do a scatter plot here. Okay, so let's do depth count. We're going to do the index as our x, and the depth count values as our y. Let's make sure that this is like a bright color for you guys. Let's say red. We can do set title. We are going to do set X label and set Y label. So I'll say number of reefs by depth. The X label is going to represent the depth, and the Y will represent the count, the number of reefs. Okay, awesome. Okay, moving on to our next question. I want to display the bleaching percentage by country. Remember, we're only doing this time frame here. Okay, so this is going to be a bar chart with other mini bar charts inside of it. So really, I'm going to take my pivot table itself, and I'm going to kind of like plot the entire pivot table. So I can call the Matplotlib plot function on our Pandas pivot table. And I'm just going to say here, kind is equal to a bar. We are going to say AX. I hate this little box sometimes, just when I'm making videos. AXS, where is this going? 0, 1, 0. And let's say the width of each of those will be a decimal, okay, of each mini bar inside. So we're going to go 1, 0 here. I think you can guess what's coming. I'm just going to copy these actually. And really, I don't actually even need X because the pivot is doing that for us. So bleaching by year and country. The Y is going to be bleaching percentage. Okay, that one's done. This brings me to the last one. Let's just show the top 15 places for bleaching. Okay, so I think I already did this. Data, yes, high bleaching. We already have that from above. Let me go up and mark it. Right here. Okay, so anywhere that's over 50 is considered high, but that's going to be more like too much to display on the page. So I'm only going to get the first 15. So let's go back. Let's actually say the head of that is 15. And we're going to set the index, if it loads, to become reef name. And let's get our bleaching percentage. Okay, I think I'm good. I'm going to plot that. Okay, kind. What do I want to plot this as? Let's just say a bar chart again. And where are we assigning this? We are assigning this to 1, 1, just like so. I'm going to take these two. Oh, I also noticed these guys I have backwards. 1, 0. This should be 1, 1. The title for this one is going to be, let's say, top 15 bleaching locations, and the Y label is going to be, or better yet, let's say percentage. Cool. We're pretty much there for our analysis. Let's just make sure everything's tightly compact, and let's show our plot, see if we have any issues. Okay, I'm going to run my code. Set X label, line 86. Yeah. This shouldn't be here. Save, run again. Boom. Look at that, guys. Okay. This is our analysis, and this is the legend up here. Okay. And you can see the top countries, the average bleaching by country that we sectioned out. I don't know what I'm going to attribute it to, but Venezuela, incredibly high. Is it the elections, or is it all the oil they're drilling for? That's really, really sad, actually. That's 90% of their coral gone. And nowhere else even comes close to what we're seeing here in Venezuela. All the other ones, they're still incredibly high to other parts of the world, but I mean, that's a great gap. Over here, this doesn't surprise me at all, okay? This outlier actually does a little bit. So the number of reefs by depth. You can see that most of the reefs are within this area. And okay, most reefs, the highest number is at 10 meters. There's over 2,500 reefs. So you can see that most reefs around the world are going to be about 7.5 meters to about 12 meters, which is accurate. Okay, as we go deeper and deeper in the ocean, there are not as many reefs, or there are, but I mean, we don't go diving there. So it's much harder to survey those reefs. If we look at examples like the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, right, that is mostly incredibly shallow. That's why it's one of the most popular dive destinations. Or we look at Indonesia or Thailand, Vietnam. Okay, these diving destinations, most of them are shallow, okay, especially for the coral dive sites. I like this one. This is very interesting, okay? So you can see here a list of countries and the bleaching over the years. Now, let's look at Florida, which has the most, and it's quite sad, actually. Or even Thailand. So I spent 2 years working in Thailand, diving, actually. And you can see the highest year for bleaching, according to this, is 2016, which is very, very sad. 2010 was also a steep year, and 2014. Okay, so this is a really cool way I'm going to go back to the bar chart here, but this is our pivot table in action. This is a bar chart with mini bars in there to allow us to visualize over a period of time. Then here's the top 15 bleaching locations, okay? And you can see, I mean, this is just the head I believe I got, but a few of these are at 100%, right? So that's really hard to come back from. This is our final chart. Now let me go back. Let's look at the pivot table again real quick. Okay. And so if you see here, we plotted the entire pivot table, okay, which is great. And if you remember going up to our pivot table, okay, we are plotting all of these within the pivot table, and then we're plotting the pivot table itself. Really cool, guys. Okay, let's jump into how we can refactor this to be more optimized in Python. All right, so I've just gone to the top of it, okay? I'm just going to begin top to bottom and work down, okay? I'm going to create a function, and I'm just going to call this load data, okay? Inside here, I'm going to be giving it a file path, not all of that. Let's just call it file path. Okay, and really, let's just say this. Whoops, tab. I'm going to delete print info. I'll put that down later if I want to. Okay, so I have created a function, and I'm not even going to store that. I'm just going to return, okay, the CSV file. Okay, next up, I would like to create a data inspection function. Okay, this is going to be given our entire data frame. And pretty much everything in here, I'm just going to bump this inside. And let me put down here again, let's just call this info, and let me put that data.info. Okay. So, I mean, there we go. I've created 2 functions for code reusability that I can call these at a later stage. I'm going to close these as I go through them. All right, let's see how we can get this looking. Now let's create one. So I'm going to call this cleaner. This is going to be our data cleaner, and this is going to accept data as well as my outside list of critical calls. Okay. For now, I'm going to remove this, put this list here. Okay. Really in my cleaner, tab, we're going to clean the data, and I'm going to return the data as a whole. Okay, so that's all the cleaner is doing. The cleaner is taking our data frame, essentially, and it's just going to clean it, and then it's going to return the data for us. Okay, very nice. I'm going to mark that, close it. Now, all of these, they can just get wrapped in their own function too. So I'll say standardize data.
what is this going to take? This is going to take our data. And pretty much everything here, I'm just going to bump it inside. Boom, like so. I'm going to unmark these. Okay, so I've standardized it. This is also a part of standardization. So we're going to bump the function in. So standardized data, when this is called, is also going to call this internally. And then we can clean up and do some, let me mark that for you guys, data featuring. Okay. If you guys are getting value from this, remember guys, hit that like button. In my newsletter, the first link in the description, I am doing a 12-week data analytics series where I take you guys from A to Z. And coming out soon, if it's not already out, is a data analytics project on my newsletter where I break it down even further and we do a different project as well. So head on down, first link in the description, join the newsletter, grab this data set so you can follow along and put your skills to the test. I've covered most of this in my previous episodes that I have linked throughout this, and there are some new things that I've kind of dropped in here. Okay, so what's new in the episode? Let me know in the comments and let me know what you guys think. Okay, so that's standardizing. I'm going to close that. So going up, I have inspection, cleaner. Oh, hang on. I would just like to then at the end, we are going to return data. Okay. So that's done. Let's now create one. So let's call this def filter group. Filter and group. That's a bit better. This will take our data again and pretty much everything in here. I'm just gonna bump inside that. Okay, so that's looking great. So, but there are things so like 1, 2, 3, 4, all this stuff here. I'm gonna return pretty much everything. So data high bleaching, data reef depth, data years. Okay, and then my pivot table. Am I missing? Oh yeah, group by country. Okay, so there we go. That's my function. We're gonna close it up. And then finally, we're left with the visualization. For this one, we will just create, I'm gonna say a visualization. And I need to give it everything. So everything you see here underlined that I returned in this function here, I need to give it. So I'm going to say group by country. We are going to say what else? Data reef depth. We are going to say pivots. And is that it? Data high bleaching. Data high bleaching. Okay, so we have everything I'm going to use there. I'm just now going to take all this and we're going to bump it inside. Very cool. Okay, so I'm going to close this down. So, long story short, let me actually just remove this now. Let's see. So, all that code, I have now wrapped and stored those in functions. This list I'm going to need to use here. Okay, so I'm going to now create my main function. This is responsible for everything. Okay, so our data, I need to create the data, and I'm going to call the load data method, giving it my CSV. Okay, so now data represents that because load data returns this to us. So data is our loaded data set, just as before. Okay, nothing new. Next up, let's call our data inspection, and I'm going to give it my data that we just returned. Next up would be our cleaner. So I'm going to bring my list down here. Okay, let's call cleaner. What arguments do we need? Data, and then critical calls. So I'm going to call that in there. Okay, so we're passing those two. That is going to return. So I'm going to say data is equal to that. Standardized calls also returns data. So I'm going to call this, we're going to call standardized data, and that just takes our data that we've been going down through. Okay, very cool. What's next? Filter and group. So filter and group returns a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to copy this because it's returning all these values. And that's going to be equal to filter and group. We're going to give it our data. So now we have those. Then finally, if I just call my visualization here, I am just going to give it all of these. I didn't do it in a very good order. And I spelled hi wrong. Okay, that's being used. So group by country, that's 1. What do I have next? Data reef. That's 2. Pivot is next, and data high bleaching. That's pretty much it, guys. Outside here, we're going to do the famous if name in main. Let's call main. I'm going to close main. So that's really all we're left with. Everything we did today, we have refactored it. We have stored it inside functions. And this is phenomenal. Okay, so that's what we work with. Let me run my final code. And there we are, the same exact output. We took our data analysis, we refactored it, and we answered key questions that come to coral reef bleaching. Guys, if you got value, hit that like button.
If you guys got value from today's video, do me a favor, hit the like button, okay, and subscribe. That really does help me out within the YouTube algorithm. Just liking the videos help me reach more people. I really hope you guys enjoyed our first analysis project together, okay? Drop me a comment, let me know your thoughts, all right? I'm only using the skills that I've covered here on the channel, and as we progress, we will learn more and more. Well, guys, there you have it. Coral bleaching, a sad thing that we are facing annually, all the time, every year. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Until next time, Python crew, I'll see you then.